All right, so to do the full cycle on a function build, we have already a couple of these here. So typically what I'll do is just copy over one of these to get the node going. Don't have the templates ready right now, but yeah, we used to have a template that just starts one fresh. But what we can click the little arrow, and then we just create here. All right, so this one is implementing the get job search function. You hover over the info icon, and that brings up the actual endpoint description. So then I use this little tool called Text Sniper, but I think there's many other ones. Basically just allows me to copy paste, because when you try to, this won't let you copy regularly. As you can see, it brings out this kind of thing, and then whatever you drag it over, it'll give you the text that OCR on the fly. Okay, so endpoint description here, right? It's got the description, and then the actual code itself, but not in shell format. So in the curl shell, we are always working with this in Bubble and in NA10 for the most part. We're not relying on JavaScript there. So for the actual agentic stuff, we're always using Node.js as the target client. For our for infrastructure and framework is always in Fetch. If we look inside of RapidAPI, you can go to the main endpoint page, get more info about this. Currently, we're just with them on the free plan, but you could always check and see if this is working. So here it's fine, just use the template. Maybe try this. So let's just use this query. Whatever parameters exist here will also be represented in the code. So if we change something, manager in San Francisco, you can see how immediately the URL has been augmented and encoded. The query is going to pass into the URL without any issues. There's a bunch of other parameters, but we don't exactly know which of them we will need or use. But now let's get all of the code organized and working. So grab this code and then come into our dev agent here. So we will say function call is get job results from JSearch, right? That we grabbed from the description by hovering over the tooltip. Usually these will contain everything we need. Sometimes they're really bare and more writing needs to be done. Typically I just copy paste, but we do modify how this is written. So the very first thing we say is this custom tool function. We want to be pretty literal here and verbose, because we don't want the agent to wonder or guess as little as possible. Custom tool function calls the JSearch API, which, let's say, allows you, so it's when you, in this descriptions, allows you're talking to the agent. It's essentially explaining the agent, their duties and their work, or the specific toolkit, how it works, which allows you to search for jobs posted on any public job site across the web on the largest job aggregate in the world, Google for jobs. So yeah, JSearch is Google for jobs. This tool offers extensive filtering support and most options available on Google for jobs. Okay. When the user requests various job batches or filtered job search results. Okay. And also use this custom tool explicitly when the user asks for all jobs approach and provides their filter criteria. So that's a pretty good description to start. Probably will require some further work. You can grab this little logo icon just so it's easier. You right click and then copy image address. The address itself or the URL is all we need. We don't need to actually download that image. And that URL link here just gets pasted. And, okay. So then usually comes the most time consuming part, which is the actual code and parameter specification. So what we will do is already copied the code, paste it. Great. And then depending on which things we want to make available, I'll make all of these parameters, number of pages, just basically copy paste each and every one. The more of these we expose to the agent and allow the agent to fill in, the more flexible the agent is. If we only expose just this query and just the title, then obviously users becomes limited. What if they don't want any intern or part-time positions or contractor positions? They just want full-time roles. Google Jobs is one of the top BIs in that sense. They definitely cover everything. It's a little bit more work on our side, but that's fine. Job description. What is this? Okay, let's start with these. So all of these are query params. Nothing in the body. It's not how the API works. Headers are all taken care of. All of this goes into the query string, into the URL itself. And the way that we actually represent that in the code, so this is a get function. So the input schema will contain all of these items. I can just add a bunch. 10 to start. In a batch format. Make all of these required because in order to get complete searches, I'll force the agent to provide everything, even if a lot of them will contain defaults. This way we get responses that are correct. Okay, so then the names of the parameters, have them all here. Starts, we saw the query was at the top, so query is one. Page, number of pages, date posted, Boolean to check whether we want to search only for remote positions, employment types, requirements, add anything that's going to be here and made into this money sign kind of dynamic variable does need to be reflected here in the input schema section always. So let's say employer, hiring, radius, categories. Okay, exclude job publisher, markup job descriptions. So query for sure will be required because the call can't be run without knowing. Working with RapidAPI, the mandatory required parameters for the API will be marked with a red asterisk. And then everything that's optional is, pretty obvious. It says optional. But sometimes, even though it says optional, we make it mandatory on our end, depending on what we're trying to do. Search, query. So the format for all these descriptions, we use underscore lowercase separated values that describe this parameter variable to the agent, not the entire tool, but the specific. So search query provided by user known as query API. The page next is optional. It is type is numbers. The types are correctly matched. So if something is supposed to be a number and we have the agent try to pass a string into that, then it'll fail on the call. Page is a number. Page number. Oh, it's page and API. Num pages allows us to control how many, up to 20 pages of results. That's probably going to be too much and not work. So we'll still say number of pages to return known as pages in API. And then I'm also going to say 5 as default. Okay. Next, date posted. Date posted here is an enum that allows for any of these values. So we will copy paste these possible values that the API uses. In Flowise, there's no option to do an enum natively. So we use the string type and say date posted is optional within the time you specified. Date posted in API. In the description, we're going to say accepts these values. All right. So now the parameter clearly knows that, or the agent clearly knows they can use either of those enum values inside and will intelligently pay attention to a Boolean for remote jobs only. So remote jobs only is Boolean, and let's say only in API. Deployment types is a string type, so not an enum, but it only accepts the following values. So anything else put into this even will not work. So even though these differ in how this is an actual enum, this is like a simulated, but principle is the same. We grab the values, use the string operator type here. Okay, paste those in. Deployment types in API. One of following. Okay. Job requirements are find jobs with certain requirements. The specific background did more than 3 no experience. So not a true enum, but functions is one. Only one of these can go into here. So we just want to make sure we capture that string. This 6 company types. I think they're all string. Job requirements, filter as requirements in API, accept one of following as value. And same thing. Now, I think we might have to shift. Some of these are quite a bit long, so might run into some issues so we'll have to find out here on the testing in a second. I might have to shift some of these into the tool description. See, always want to be wary of, I think this one is 512 max, 512 characters, and these are D6 max. Need to check. Job titles, okay, back to it. Job titles, find jobs, specified list, filter values, as returned by the search filters endpoint. So that's a whole other endpoint here. Okay, interesting. Let's exclude that for now because we can always add these in later once we have more overlapping functions. Okay, company types and jobs. What's the search? Separated by list of company types. Okay, search filters. So these 3 here, this is deprecated. These 3 are company types employer. Job title is company types, employer. Let's not do those right now. For base level function, actively hiring. Find jobs, set employers that are hiring. Category is deprecated, so you can ignore. So it's a Boolean on actively hiring. Boolean flag to check for hiring. Status known as PI. Okay, let's not make that required. So the only required ones is date posted, number of pages, page query, and then employment types can also be not required. We'll let the agent decide. Job requirements. Radius is a number, and categories, as we see in the API, it's deprecated, so it probably won't even work. Radius, number of area to search as radius in API. This will make a, let's say, also here. So whenever we want to inform and instruct the agent to decide when to use defaults, get further information from the user, we can say use 100 as default. Cool, so params are done. Now we just need to go in and fix up the code here. Everything at the top stays the same. We're just requiring fetch. Then here's our string. And right away, we could see that we just need to replace the values with dynamic. What happens is, usually I'll go select this hard-coded placeholder value, delete, single curlies, one space, plus money sign, query, and then plus space. We have the base endpoint right here, right? Or actually base URL right here, name of endpoint here, which is job search, and then the dynamic part. So here's the actual query parameter name and the value as you construct the query string here. It again updates in the code. Title is no, company types no. This is the full string now. Just gonna redo this. Put here, from date posted, employment types. Okay. And okay, so we can check as long as there's an ampersand before each key, money signs per. Looks like here we should have space. Step through it. Job requirements. Okay. Making sure everything is concatenated correctly. Okay, seems to be okay. Options section always stays the same from sample code, nothing there. So then in the try block, 1, 2, line 3, make a space and grab this console log utility lines. We want to track when the function is used or fails or has some sort of issue, and it's named JSearch. Typically I just grab the actual function name, add that here. Then we're going to log the result and actually return the result turn. And then also do a return an empty string. Okay, so seems like this is a good starting point. Not sure if this will pass. Typically, I'll even grab the code here. I've just been working with our latest Matter agent, which is from the feeds, a little different. But let's see here. All right, so let's create a function. Tool look here. Yep, there it is. Then we connect it to tools and save so that it updates the canvas state. This tool is available to the agent. Test this. We specifically said you can also use this tool. Explicitly asks to get me all jobs. Okay, so I can just copy paste here. Save. Okay, let's get my jobs from JSearch. And now we actually talked to it. So I'm a product manager, and there's an experience working for product manager positions in San Francisco. Get me on jobs from JSearch that are within 50-mile radius for the full product manager. Okay, so just something like that. So we specify particularly right here that JSearch needs to be used, forcing the agent to call this API. And so immediately there's an error. And I will troubleshoot that right now. 1 second. Okay, looks like it's working now. That will happen where first implementation will not fire. And here, yeah, so we test always right here within the dev staging Flowise canvas, right? So using the built-in chat here, finally, it's clearing well. And this is the massive amount of content that it's analyzing and bringing back. So yeah, it's a product manager. And the issue was, so inside of the code, the reason it was failing is because there were more things in here and not all of them are reflected here. It was causing a full schema break and the API called failure. So always have to be really careful. I removed a couple additional parameters for now. This is a properly implemented baseline function. We have the core mandatory input schema parameters filled in. Everything is required and everything has now been explained to the agent as to how to use defaults. For example, use 5 as default, use 1 as default. Okay, yeah, and the one thing I fixed was just go through the dynamically set variables here and ensure that they fully match here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so function saved. Then we open up the chat message and say, can I get the latest jobs available for the following details? Marketing manager in San Jose, CA. I'd like to see all of the available jobs within 10-mile radius. Okay, so if we fire that in now, oh, I forgot to specify here just for it to use JSearch explicitly. So now it might pull something else or use one of the other tools. But when initially unit testing the very first function implementation and kind of tool build, yeah, specific, it's easier. Okay, so it recognized, because it doesn't have a ton of other tools connected to it yet, it auto recognized that it needs to go to JSearch. Specifically here, it returned 5 pages as we instructed in the default. We did get the date posted to, and of course we can specify in our query and say, just make sure you pull only, maybe not all, but today, or let's say 3 days. Can you actually please pull the results that are only within the last 3 days range? So memory is working totally fine here. No need to do anything special. Agent does have full recall of every message from the beginning of the conversation and is even connected to the RAG tooling. So it's able to pull from the user brain, second brain memory. Okay, so looks like TikTok is still coming up as a first result. That's supposed to be posted recently. And let's see, is it pulling the same results? No, they are different here. Yeah. But again, everything is checking out. The parameters here is correctly interpreted by the agent. As you can see, we asked here just in a regular English. So agent is able to then, because it knows what parameters or the available enum values are, and converts those accordingly.